All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to get this group together and present to you this robust solution that we've basically decided that we really needed to present as a result of the recent directive that has come down. So today is our presentation on vendor threat mitigation and how we are addressing those challenges. My name is Dallas Knight. I'm an executive vice president here at Blue Fusion. My background stems from 6 years in the military, about 10 years in law enforcement on the intel side, and then crossing over into the corporate world where I've worked hand in hand with our technology partners to help develop a robust solution that meets and addresses challenges that I saw throughout my career. And it's an absolute honor and privilege for me to introduce the team today and to help facilitate this presentation. So our agenda is we're going to go into a little bit about who Blue Fusion is, in case you've never heard of us before, or maybe you know us by our previous name, Blue Light. We're going to go into the DoD Directive, what some roadblocks are, what's needed, and then we're going to talk about our integrated partnerships. We have a panel of amazing partners here joining us today. Then we're going to show you a live demonstration of a cohesive solution where we're all working together, and then of course we'll address your questions and close. Now, a couple logistics things. There are 2 ways to communicate with us today. The first is the Q&A. You'll see that button on your screen. I ask that you put any questions that directly pertain to the presentation and what you're seeing in that Q&A field. It allows us to keep track and make sure that we address any and all questions that come through. And then the other way is through the chat. Any of our presentators might want to get some feedback from you. They might have some questions for the field, and it's really helpful for us to understand where you're at. So feel free to get into that chat and give feedback. All right, so Blue Fusion really started over 20 years ago as a company called Blue Light, where we were primarily supporting and servicing the entire intelligence community. Several years ago, we decided to stand on our own 2 feet and really just plug away and commit to addressing the primary challenge that we saw, which was the amount of time that it was taking to query and collect and clean and normalize data. The data fields have increased over the last decade tremendously, not only internally, but especially externally. And these systems are only getting more complex. And I remember even 10 years ago having a sticky note on the side of my screen as I was passed information to run through the list that I had on that sticky note. And I know my colleagues now that are still in the field that list has basically doubled. So we have found that analysts and investigators are typically spending at least 2/3 of their time just trying to get their hands on the information. And so what Blue Fusion essentially does in a nutshell is it connects you directly to all of those data sources without moving it, without duplicating it, without having to do an extract, transform, and load, or having a big fat data lake. It gives you access to those both internal and external and allows you to run queries against that data very easily. You'll see it's very visual in nature. We've made it very user-friendly. And with that, we've brought 3 of our partners, 3 of our connectors, if you will, to the table today to showcase what that looks like for this particular use case. And so it's my pleasure to introduce the entire team here. You'll hear from just about everyone on this list. Our chief sales officer is on, but really he's been around this industry for many, many years. He also comes from a military background. Tevet, I'll be turning over the presentation to him here momentarily. He's our Federal Business Development Manager. Aaron Carr is our data scientist. Peter, James, Allison, and Ryan are all joining us from the respective partners, and you'll hear from each one of them. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tevet. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Dallas. Hello, everyone. So let's talk a little bit about the directive and why it matters. The DoD directive calls upon us to implement a vendor threat mitigation program that identifies vets and addresses threats posed by vendors. And that's not only for the US, but it's allies and partners, or any threat that they pose to national security objectives. And we have to mitigate those risks as appropriate. So what's key here is that, with frameworks like agile combat employment, at the combatant command level, we're going to be heavily reliant upon the global supply chain, our vendor tie-ins, as well as localized infrastructure and vendor services in order to fight the next war. A lot of what we've seen in the past, you guys are familiar with, the Belt and Road Initiative and things that our adversaries have done to influence the environments where we see ourselves operating in the near future. Furthermore, this is a combatant command responsibility. So where it changes is they're called to identify, vet, and act upon those vendor threats in their assigned areas of responsibility. And the last piece of that is sharing the information that the combatant commands uncover with regards to the risk and vendor threats, but also how did they mitigate those threats within their area of responsibility. Now, as some of you, if I have any COCOM representatives here or anyone who's working in a combatant command organization, go ahead and drop a one in the chat, because I think this is going to be one of the limiting factors and roadblocks is, as military members, as Department of Defense members, we've all experienced those stovepipes. The ability or the bureaucracy that gets in the way of sharing data outside of our organization and looking at this from a whole of government approach. So some of the common roadblocks that we've identified with vendor threat mitigation are right here. And I want you to think, if you have a solution, a turnkey solution that is a vendor threat mitigation solution, uh, I want you to see if any of these roadblocks apply to you. If you're shopping for a solution or perhaps need to implement some other processes to your solution, these are some of the things that you need to look out for. When it comes to fragments and data sources, we call that disparate data here at Blue Fusion. That is everything from the spreadsheet you have on your desktop to your enterprise database within your organization, perhaps some publicly accessible information that you ingest as part of your system, as well as those commercial subscription providers and OSINT data providers that you bring upon your solution. And this sometimes, fragmented data sources aren't just unique to vendor threat mitigation. They happen across all levels with all of the responsibilities and analysis requirements that we have to execute. Some of that leads to one-off vetting. So once again, when we talk about curating data from across all of those sources, and now we've had to download that and it sits right there on our desktop, perhaps, or in a siloed system on one of our networks that doesn't allow us the flexibility to integrate with those other data sets. That's where we have that one-off vetting. Entity resolution, so understanding, peeking, being able to peer behind the curtain and see what some of these opaque relationships look like when it comes to international vendors. But not only that, the link analysis associated with that, connecting those dots between the vendors to understand those relationships. Part of that leads to, how do we interoperate as a team? We have to have workflows in place. We have to be able to share those workflows, and we have to let our team members create workflows on our behalf that we can pick up and take further. We all know that personnel turnover is a thing. People move out of certain positions, move to other directorates. Our military personnel PCS all the time. So imagine having the continuity available to continue the work that they've started and build upon that. And the last thing is going to be delayed alerts. So is your system alerting you in real time? Because the directive calls for continuous monitoring of vendor threat mitigation. This isn't a one-time action that happens prior to contract. It happens through the life of that contract as well. And we want to be able to maintain a repository as we move in and out of areas of responsibility and start to engage with different vendors or similar vendors for different requirements. Now, what do you need to overcome all of those roadblocks? First, when it comes to those roadblocks, if you can drop in the chat for me, we said there were 5 roadblocks. How many of those roadblocks do you see in your organization right now? So if you have one roadblock, drop a 1 in the chat. If you have 5, go ahead and drop a 5 in the chat. That would be all of those roadblocks. So what do you need to overcome those roadblocks? Well, you need simultaneous access to all the data you have at hand. Once again, I said the data that you have in a spreadsheet all the way up to the externally accessible data, as well as data that other organizations provide for you to use. We need our alerting and our analysis to happen also in the background in real time with automated alerts and notifications. So what that looks like is setting up recurring workflows that work for you. So you're not manually doing those workflows all the time, and then alerting you when they hit on a differentiator or reach threshold or perhaps a new piece of information. We also need data providers that support that. So what is the best degree of data providers for your organization's requirements or the mission that you guys have? And we touched upon the siloed workflows and things like that. So we need a solution that can take care of that problem set for us, sharing workflows and queries across the enterprise, and being able to unify your expertise as positions change or as you experience turnover. Now with Blue Fusion, we offer a real-time approach to this. The first three dots there represent what Blue Fusion brings to the fight for your vendor threat mitigation solution. The last three are unique to the partnerships that we've created, and those are the things that our partners bring to this fight. Together, all of that equals one platform that gives you real-time intelligence and seamless risk mitigation. So as you can see, we've put together today a presentation for you with some of our most trusted partners to provide unique data sets that align with vendor threat mitigation requirements. First, we'll go over Blue Fusion, which is our platform, and that's what's going to allow access to all three of our vendors. So we provide you a unified platform that solves the biggest challenges across any data or any industry, and that challenge is typically data access and data disparity. Through our unified interface, what we're able to do is simultaneously query one, some, or all of the data sets that you're connected to. And at query time, which is the data retrieval, or at data retrieval, we're able to clean and normalize all of that data. So what that looks like is often with separate data sets, they're saved in different formats. So we can take all of the formats across structured data sets and be able to normalize that so that you can either access it through Blue Fusion Reveal, which is what we're going to show to you coming up, or via an API. That API allows integration into your enterprise tool sets or third-party tools that you've already invested in, but you can access all of that data in a normalized fashion. Our dynamic query is what investigative pivots are talking about, and that allows you to build a query, but let's imagine the ability to expand the aperture or really drill down without having to rebuild that query. We either add on to that query or remove from that query some of the details when we don't find the results that we're looking for. So Blue Fusion is 3 layers, and each one of these layers represents a piece of our architecture. First is the data source. We're data agnostic. So we will connect you to any structured data source and bring that back into our patented system, which is called Blue Fusion Tether. That middle layer right there represents Blue Fusion Tether, and that is the ability to perform the federated query and normalization of any structured data source. Now you can access Blue Fusion Tether, like I said, via API or via our secure unified interface, which is known as Blue Fusion Reveal. Within Reveal, that is the ability to build a no-code federated query. That query that you build is dynamic in nature. It also offers analysis, visualization, link analysis, hidden data point, relationship revealing. It's a very powerful, unified, streamlined interface that scales across enterprise. And the beauty with Blue Fusion Reveal is that when you adopt that as a vendor threat mitigation interface, it scales across every combatant command. So when we look at, once again, I touched upon personnel turnover or things like that, no matter what command you go to, if Blue Fusion Reveal is there, you are already trained on that system and able to get after your job from day one. So I'd like to introduce our first data vendor partner, WireScreen. Peter, floor is yours.
Thanks so much. So Pete James, I head up training guidance here at WireScreen. So WireScreen is a data intelligence platform focused on China, and we pull from a wide range of public sources from behind the Chinese firewall to create and maintain comprehensive profiles on over 14 million companies and 30 million people. And these profiles are rich in detail and connectivity, allowing us to highlight links between seemingly disparate entities to surface a whole range of insights. We were founded by David Barboza, who's the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, and he spent 12 years running the New York Times Shanghai Bureau. And WireScreen was created to reveal the kind of deep insight that he and our co-founder Lynn surfaced in their investigative journalism, but enabling others to achieve that at pace and at scale without needing expertise in Chinese language or corporate records acquisition and analysis. Next slide, please. So we add risk and informational flags to many of the entities in the profiles, which really provides vital contextual information to support our customers. Our research team identifies specialized data sources to illuminate priority industries, such as companies contracting to the Chinese security apparatus or research laboratories involved in China's quantum and AI industries. And then those flags also transfer to other connected entities via ownership and control relationships, allowing you to identify risk across a network of related entities. Next slide, please. And then ultimately, we allow our customers to dramatically decrease their time to value when conducting China-linked investigations or doing assessment work or due diligence. And they can navigate hard to find complex corporate data in a curated, translated form to effectively identify new leads and to detect hidden risk.
Thanks, Pete. Next, we have DarkOwl.
Hi, I'm Allison, Chief Business Officer at DarkOwl. I'm going to walk you through what our data set looks like. So we started collecting data off of the dark web dating back to about 2012. We essentially collect that data, we park it in a database, and then provide access to that data. And it will come as no surprise that our data is extremely complementary to folks like WireScreen. So there's been some really interesting use cases where you identify a company through someone like WireScreen, you're able to pivot and use some of that data and investigate that on some dark web marketplaces or forums. The data sets are so complementary. So I love presenting in an environment where someone like Blue Fusion can bring these data sets together. So in terms of where we collect, and this is important, there are a lot of dark web providers out there, and I will tell you that they're not all the same. So technically you could go out onto Tor and take a look at a handful of pages every couple weeks, and by definition, you would in fact be a dark web collection source. That said, I would argue that our strength at DarkOwl is in our collection sources. So everything you see here in red is a place that we actively collect from. Over on the right-hand side, you see Discord, Telegram, IRC. We've been doing a big focus on collecting from some of these direct messaging platforms. A lot of really good content coming out of there. The other source I would highlight here in the middle is the criminal forums and marketplaces. And we benefit here from having personas that date back about a dozen years. And I think we walk a really nice line of spending the time and energy from a manual perspective to get in, gain some access, follow all the rules of the said marketplace or forum, and then we'll start to use some automation and collect that. So this is where we differ from a lot of the kind of credential banks and have a lot of content that comes off of chat platforms. Regardless of where we get it, you see all these sources now here on the left-hand side. We pull it in, park it in a database, normalize that data, and then are able to provide it in a very structured format to folks like Blue Fusion. And last but not least, we're doing this in an ethical way, following DOJ guidelines, GDPR compliant. Our data is ethically collected, which in our space is worth noting. There's interestingly a lot of sort of fly-by-night operations that are doing this and not complying. So especially when we're talking about the client set that's going to be receiving this through something through Blue Fusion, it's important to note that some of the guidelines that we follow.
Thank you, Allison. Next up is Ryan from TRM Labs.
Thanks, Tevitt. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, whatever it is, wherever you are. TRM Labs is a blockchain intelligence company, which essentially means we help the good guys figure out the bad guys using crypto for. And it doesn't matter if you go to the next slide, please. It doesn't matter what threat category you're interested in, what area of responsibility you're focused on, what bad guy you're focused on. Bad guys around the globe are using crypto more and more every day, in a lot of use cases almost exclusively. Whether you're a ransomware actor, maybe a cartel smuggling drugs across the border, disinformation campaigns are being funded by Russians via crypto, sanctions evasions, fentanyl precursors, you name it, the bad guys are using crypto for anything you can imagine. Go to the next slide. I think there's this, common misconception, this myth, if you will, that crypto is this mythical, unbreakable, untraceable thing. It's actually the opposite, right? It is a public, decentralized ledger. There is a level of anonymity when it comes to the blockchain, but that's where TRM kind of comes into play. We take the totality of every transaction that's ever occurred across 36 and counting different blockchains, enrich that with a bunch of data sources, and truly help you understand what the bad guys using crypto for. Think of TRM as almost the Google Maps or the Google search engine to the blockchain. We're illuminating those insights and helping you get to the left of bang. And on that note, just a specific use case, you go to the next slide. The Russians especially have been leveraging crypto for formalized trade ever since sanctions evasions came down at the start of the war in Ukraine. They have really leveraged crypto for cross-border trade with the Chinese, helping get entire not just critical components, but entire platforms of UAVs and counter UAVs, and leveraging crypto to do so. And talking about how you can get left of bang, T3 initiative, which is initiative put on by Tron, Tether, and TRM, helps you freeze any illicit activity using the USDT, the stable coin. So really hit the enemy where it hurts in their wallet and help you get to the left of bang from there.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. So when you look at Blue Fusion's unique ability to partner with WireScreen, their unique access into China, DarkOwl reducing the risk of darknet collection, and TRM illuminating the blockchain, you're going to see all of that come together here in this demonstration. Before I turn it over to Aaron, I want you to think about one thing. At some point in this presentation, there's going to be a little voice inside your head that says, aha, I can use this for whatever that is as well. Listen to that voice. It's going to be right. Whatever that moment is or whatever that use case is, feel free to drop it in the chat. One of the best things that we hear from our customers is, I needed this when I was in this job. And we want to hear your feedback on what that use case looks like, unique to your organization or your experience. So now I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Carr, our resident data scientist and program manager, who will be running this demo.
All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yes, sir, you're good to go.
All right, so welcome to Blue Fusion. This is going to be a brief demo. We're going to do a walkthrough that has a combination of live data and also some simulated data that we use for our training purposes. You've seen everybody talk about their data sets. We all talk the talk, so we're going to get into this and walk the walk right now. So once you log in, this is your home screen. The first thing that we need to do in any problem to solve any question that you might want to use data for is we need to get data. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our connectors. As Tevitt was talking about the tethers, this is all the data that we are connected to, whether that is TRM, WireScreen, DarkOwl. any of our data partners, this is a list. You can have an unlimited number of connectors connecting all that data. The important part here is two things. One, all this data is brought in and unified, and it is searched as a federated search. And what that means is that instead of searching one, then going to another database and searching that, and then going to the next database and searching that, when you hit search, you're searching all of them at the same time. So you're going to see a theme come across here. It's probably something you've seen 100,000 times, and that is going to be the green bars going across from the left to the right. While we are working through this, I want you to understand little by little exactly what's going on in that process. So we're going to elaborate on that as we go. To start with, we're going to just do a visual query. Visual query is pretty simple. This is your schema. These are the objects that are going to be in the database. This is our template for our baseline model. This can be customized to match whatever your data is, whatever your intent is. For right now, we're going to look at this from a vendor threat mitigation standpoint, and we're going to look at it from, I have a start point that's coming out of a client roster, or maybe a job applicant, or a registrar for employees at a company, and you're vetting out that company to make sure that it doesn't have any risks. So I'm just going to use one person right now. I'm going to come in here, click on that person, and I'm just going to search for specific properties about this person. So I'm just going to type name, and you'll see it pops up first name, last name. Now, as I am searching this will tell me what databases will use this. So when I hit search, these are the databases that query is going to go out to. So in this case, I am going to go for Frank, and you might be able to tell I've done this once or twice before because it's already in there. So we're going to add those properties onto our entity, and we're going to hit apply. Now, it can really be that simple. I don't have to have something complex, but if I wanted to, I could add any number of different items and show relationships between them and only get the results that match those things back. The other thing is, let's say I don't have a result back right now. Let's say you're searching open source, information like, say, arrest records or police reports or something like that. Well, Frank Henry might not have had any of those. So if they come up and you can set a persistent search, you'll get that alert right here. And it'll tell you, hey, I found this. And it'll give you an alert. It can send you a message and say, hey, come check this out. You can also save this to be public or private. If it's private, only you can see it. If it's public, your team can see it. And you can set it to be a recurring query, as I was just talking about. For right now, I'm going to just go ahead and submit that query. And again, you're going to see bars go from the left to the right. That is actually simultaneously, as you saw, searching all of that data and bringing it back in. And it's unifying all that data. So right now you see I have one result, but I have this little marker over here that says 137 results. And if I go through this, I got a whole bunch of records coming back for that. What has just happened is it went out to all the databases. It found all the instances where Frank Henry has been mentioned. It only had one. It matched all the information. So it merged them all together into one entity. So if I click on him and then I go, I'm going to send the selected items here to the chart. There he is, right? One entity out of all 137 records that were already found. It's merged them. All that detail is into one. So now I want to explore more. I want to know what's around them. I want to try to develop an understanding of this person. So I'm going to go out. A hop is the degree of separation. You've probably heard of 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. This is kind of the same process. Anything that is one hop is a direct connection. 2 hops is something connected to the thing he's connected to, and so on and so forth. So we're just going to go ahead and run that search. And again, it's going out, it's searching the database, and it's bringing stuff back in. So right here, when you see it get to about 60%, that's data back into the database and being normalized. And then from 60 to 90, it's being formatted to fit into the schema and normalized so that everything matches in format, right? We actually added this because one of our customers, a SOCOM customer, asked us to embed that so that we could tell which data sets were returning values and which ones weren't. Not getting an answer because a data set is down is not the same as it not having any information. So I got a lot of stuff back here on the chart just from that one search. This is all stuff in direct correlation to him. It can be hard to read, so we're going to try a couple of different things. And I really want to see if he's got any other ties. So I'm gonna see here. It looks like there's an organization here. I'm gonna zoom in on, oh, that's a Chinese organization. That's potentially a risk for us, especially because it says it's linked to a transaction that says what $200,000 was paid to him from a Chinese company. So we probably want to know what that was related to. So let's go ahead and expand on that. Now we can do two types of expand. We can do an expand all. We can do an expand, a filtered expand. The only difference is that in expand all, you don't know what you're looking for. You're just saying, give me back everything that there is. And in the filtered expand, I can say specifically, I want to know about other organizations or just people associated with. So if you're looking for, say, beneficial ownership type information or something like that, you can get that back by just saying, I want only people or entities that have beneficial ownership. So it's running through the search, it's pulling information back, and then it's going to populate our chart here. Once it does that, we'll be able to take a look, see what that context looks like, and expand upon whatever pieces look interesting to us. So this is the new part right here. So let's take a look. We got some email addresses, phone numbers. Looks like we got an address here. So we don't really know what's going to be of interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here and we're going to do another expand. And this time we're going to go 2 hops. And the reason we're going to go 2 hops is because 1 hop is all the stuff we have right here. And 2 hops is going to be what is right beyond that. And we're going to get this information back. So what's happening right now is it's going back, it's doing that search, and then it's going out and it's pulling all those things that are right on the periphery right here, first degree back out, and then it's doing the same search that I just did, but it's running it against each one of these. So it's pulling out 1 degree of separation for each one of these. So imagine if you were trying to do this yourself, you would have to take that piece of information, whatever came back, so the email address, and then you'd have to run that through every database. Then you get a phone number, you got to run that. And that's not counting all the stuff you get back from that you have to run. So what you're seeing now has a little more context in that green bar going from the left to the right. All of that is happening right now, and it's happening uniquely for each data set. As you can tell, they're not all moving at the exact same time. They are processing information, bringing it back, and expanding it out. So I got a little bit of information here. And it looks like I got 2 crypto accounts. So we're gonna take a look at those. And it looks like we can take a look and see just by hovering over them, we can see that these are probably the same thing. They came from different sources, but they're the same thing. So we're gonna go ahead and click on that one. Get that one too. We're gonna go ahead and merge those items together. And then I want to know more about this. So I'm going to do a hop from here. Expand all. And I'm going to say, yeah, give me 2. And we're going to go back and out and do this. Now, I'm doing this in stages because I want you to see that this is a thought process, a workflow. But the reality is that if you had knowledge of what you were doing and you knew exactly what data sets you were going to be getting back based on how you were doing your investigations, you can start from here and just say expand 4 hops, and all of that happens automatically. So the amount of time saving that you would be getting is impressive. So it looks like we've got this mapped out to the crypto address, and this is an organization. So that is how one of the data sets classifies a designated group or perhaps a ransomware or something like that. We also have over here, we've got a web ID. So before we go on with the rest of it, I'm going to go ahead and expand on this one. Oops, just need 1 hop there. We'll go ahead and expand on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and expand on these, and I'm going to do it the same way I did with the organization itself. So, oh, we do have more information there. So looks like Changlin Wang is associated with this user ID. We can look at that and see the source of that it's an account on Weibo, which is Chinese social media. And it's tied to that email address, which also has an association with this cryptocurrency. So, or that wallet. So there's a connection between this activity and that individual, and that individual is associated and used that email probably to register for Weibo. So that's important. So rather than expand each one of these separately, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to do the expand same way I did it before. And go 2 hops. And again, that's going to go out that way. And it's going to get that in the first hop and then whatever's connected to that in the second hop. And as it's pulling all that information in, it's correlating it. And I can set this up to be reoccurring queries and notify me. And it looks like we got quite a bit of activity here. So you can see where these things have been mentioned in or associated with. So let's take a look here. There's an email address here. Looks like a fair amount of information, dark web, Russian. Let's see. A few pieces here. And then we got this group and cluster over here that's affiliated with, what is it? Lol's team chat in Cyrillic. Should tell me Slavic or Russian. If I had to guess, it's a Russian. And then you're looking at these web IDs. So these are all the web IDs associated with that group. And that is a known Hack of Collective. And there you go. There's Akira 121. So you have an affiliation here where just from a surface level, and verification is probably still warranted here, but you have a person associated with an account that is registering with the same email they use for social media. Maybe didn't even think about it. It's registered through 2 different emails, but those 2 emails are both affiliated with the same company, and it's a ransomware group. So there would be some concern there that you have an employee working for a Chinese company that has affiliations with that, and then that is connected to a person who wants to get hired who has received money from that organization. So, for example, you might have a concern that somebody's going to pay this person to put the ransomware on their network. So you'd want to know more about their relationship and things like that. We've gone through quite a bit here, so I'm gonna pause there. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. If you have any questions specifically for the data vendors, please feel free to ask them as well.
Thank you, Aaron. So what you saw there was the power of Blue Fusion. Within Blue Fusion, there's 2 product revealings. Blue Fusion Tether that happens in the background. That's represented by, as Aaron said, the left to right, the going out, accessing data in real time and on demand when you hit the submit query button. Blue Fusion Tether maintained a flexible connection to WireScreen, DarkOwl, and TRM, as you saw them retrieving, or as you saw Tether retrieving information from our partners in real time and on demand. The front end of that, the graphical user interface, that is Blue Fusion Reveal. So that's what allows you to build those no-code visual queries and dynamic in nature, as Aaron showed through the expansion feature. There's so many features that are there that, due to time and just the amount of data that you can absorb, that we weren't able to showcase for you. But it is important to know that based off of your requirements, Blue Fusion trains in as little as 1 to 3 days. We've really simplified the process of federated query analysis, link analysis, data visualization, all within that single pane of glass. That allows us to train faster, to deploy our solution faster, and make you more effective earlier on in the adoption process. We do also have an AI report writer that will take the results of your chart and put it into a report through different profiles. So you can set that up, and it works with the most common large language models such as Gemini, ChatGPT, Anthropic's, Claude. But you can interact with those large language models based on the data that you've curated and brought into Blue Fusion. And that allows you to take a profile to say, I am a senior intelligence analyst writing this report for a geo level staff to gain approval to mitigate this vendor threat. And through that, the large language model will spit out a report for you. And now you can start to tailor that. You can set templates up so that you have some turnkey templates. Maybe you have a daily stand-up and you need to generate that report every morning. That can be your crib sheet, that can be your outline, or that can be the bulk of your report that you pass on to your staff and your meeting partners. So with that, once again, I'll open it up to any further questions. Feel free to hit the chat. Feel free to hit the Q&A. If there is no questions, I know that there's a couple of frequently asked questions that I'll go over why you guys are developing your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So the first there is, we're often asked, what does Blue Fusion cost? You can find us on the GSA schedule under the multiple awards schedule through our vendor distributor, that is 4 Inc. Secondly is the data sources. So what data sources does Blue Fusion have? And that allows me the opportunity to reiterate that we're not a data provider. We work with best of breed data providers to solve your organization's requirements. Now, we do act as a data scout and a data broker. So in that, we will maintain the relationships and the contracts necessary in order for you to provide you with the data that you need. Some of you may have open source data subscriptions with other providers. We can take those subscriptions, turn them into a Blue Fusion subscription, and allow you to access that through Blue Fusion. I know there's a lot of common data providers that organizations have out there. That also allows you to share that one data provider across your enterprise. No more monthly subscriptions that happen on this GPC and that GPC and this contract. You're paying for redundant data services. Through Blue Fusion, you get unified access to WireScreen, to DarkOwl, to TRM, or whatever data vendors that you guys currently have onboarded. I have a question from Michael Bonner here that asks if there is, and if so, how does the geospatial aspect work? One of the features that Blue Fusion does have is a geospatial query function. So what that allows you to do is search across map layers. Blue Fusion provides a map layer for visualization so that you can look at that map and build radius and polygon queries across all of those data sets. So in those data sets, as Aaron started to demonstrate that there was individuals with known handles, known associations, known accounts. But one of the things we might want to know is known addresses or perhaps events that took place or incidents in the locations thereof. So we can tie that individual, we can open up a map, we can do a geospatial query and start to find the addresses and map out that picture and what it looks like. That is all inherent into Blue Fusion Reveal, so you don't have to go to another portal or to another instance of some other third-party tool in order to do that. It is incorporated into Reveal. The last common question that we typically get is going to be implementation. So what does it look like to onboard Blue Fusion? Well, as you can see, we already have tight integration with WireScreen, DarkOwl, and TRM. Any of your enterprise data sources, maybe it's just that Excel sheet, maybe it's a hard drive, or maybe it is your organization's entire database. We build those tethers, those flexible connections to those data sources in as much as 8 weeks. That is the maximum time it will take to build a custom tether. When it comes to smaller data sets, such as maybe a spreadsheet or a hard drive, we would prefer to just ingest that data because typically that's going to be static data. Let's ingest it right into Blue Fusion. We maintain a Mongo database, an open source database that almost any IT shop can work with, a database that is already ATO to most systems. We'll ingest that into that database and allow you to search it from there. That way you can disconnect that hard drive. You can get rid of that Excel sheet. Or if there's curated data that you already have from different data sources and that's saved into a smaller database file, let's just incorporate that into Blue Fusion. For the rest of the data, all of that happens on demand. without having to move that data, meaning we can leave the data at rest. We can leave the data secure where it is based off of the network security and compliance policies, and just pull the data on the fly that we need to in order for Blue Fusion to do its job. I already touched on training. So as part of the implementation, like I said, we build data tethers in as little or as much as 8 weeks, and we train in 1 to 3 days. So for the most complex solution, as we start to engineer this with your organization, the time to customer adoption, meaning the time that it takes to you to get Blue Fusion, depending on how many data tethers you have, can be, anywhere at 9 weeks from training. So those 8 weeks to build and implement, a couple of days to train, and you're off to the races. And we can build this as you go, right? We don't need to build 20 data sources. Let's, all at once and integrate everything. Let's start with your threshold requirements. Let's get you up and running. And as we go, we can continue to mature the solution to meet your needs, whether your requirements evolve, your command has to pivot the objectives that they're looking at, or maybe there's some type of operation coming up or exercise that you're preparing for. Let's onboard some data just to make sure that we can support that, and then we'll offboard that data after it's no longer used. So therefore, we save you the efficiency, the time, and the cost associated with that. So if we don't have any more questions, no more comments, this presentation will be available on our website for future viewing, for you to refer to and share as needed within your organization.